The warships that had flown to the Golden Land opened their gun ports one after another. They all fired at once in a scattered mess of cannonballs. The hundreds of explosive rounds they fired would negate the concept of anything or person they touched, smashing them into little bits and setting them ablaze with flames. The battlefield full of writhing goats became a fiery hell. A cannonball smashed the arbor. The once beautiful garden maze was burned down bit by bit, and the fleeing gold butterflies were wrapped in flames, burning into nothingness like little scraps of paper. This was no longer a battlefield where two sides fought for victory. It was just a confused, hellish pot of boiling water. The Golden Land was being torn apart. The once beautiful rose garden was filled with explosion craters, and its rose petals were scattered about without pity. There were flying bits of flesh, blood, fangs, jaws, shrieks and half-crazed screams. And even amidst this hellish swirl, the goats and the dead continued to fight. As seen from atop the boats, this was hell, without a doubt. When Etika yelled, the goats on the boats ran around frantically. And one by one, massive anchors hanging by chains were thrown from the ship's bows down into the earth below. Those anchors smashed through not only the ground, but the bottom of the Golden Land itself, digging in with their wedge-shaped tips. Beatrice landed on the front tip of the warship, facing off against Etika, who stood on the bow. Beto jabbed with her pipe, transformed into a beautifully intricate golden longsword. Etika threw her scythe up into the air. When it returned to her hand, it became a sword similar to Beto's. Nearby goats crowded around Etika, trying to support her. Aye, aye, sir. The goats bowed and rushed to their posts. Several dozen ships had lowered their anchors, digging into the base of the Golden Land. Soon they were going to try and pull them up, tearing the Golden Land to pieces. Beto raised her sword, bowed in the ancient fashion, and waited for her opponent. Etika kicked off her shoes violently and slowly walked up to the tip of the boat barefoot. Then, in accordance with Beto's rules, she bowed back. It was a duel on the prow of a ship that pierced the sky. Below, the crowd of goats was being blasted away by the indiscriminate cannonballs, burned up and crushed in the panorama of this world's end. By now, it would be stupid to wonder whether anyone from the Ushidarome family was still alright. Yes, it truly was the end of this world. The end of the Golden Land. Ground to dust, filled with flames. The Golden Rose Garden was burning spectacularly, with bits of fire and golden splashes flying about. The ground creaked as fissures ran through it, through to the base of the Golden Land. All the ships started pulling up their anchors at once. Crowds of mighty goats used all their monstrous strength to lift them. The anchors that dug into the Golden Land's base spread cracks throughout the entire Golden Land. Not just the ground, but the air itself was filled with cracks, and shards of gold fell down everywhere. The Golden Land's end was adorned with the flames of hell, and streaking gold fragments, with fiery red and ephemeral gold. Atop the boat's prow, Beto and Etika looked down on this, their swords crossed and sparks flying between them.
すでにわらわたちが勝利しているわ。
This was a duel between the master of the illusion called the Golden Land and the witch who controlled the truth. The earth split behind them. The Golden Land was torn up. The cat box known as the Golden Land was ripped apart, and the nothingness below peeked out through the cracks. The scrambling crowd of goats fell through the gaps and were swallowed by the sea of nothingness. Beato's friends were among them. They helped each other, lent a hand to each other, unwilling to sacrifice anyone until the final moment. Still, what a romantic and fragile illusion is the end of the world. The ground shattered and sank. It fell apart into the ocean of nothingness. None could survive. None could be saved. This was destruction. As the comrades in arms fell into the sea of nothingness, they looked upon one last time and prayed. They prayed that the master of the Golden Land would leave proof that the Golden Land had indeed existed. However, Beato didn't look down at them. They wouldn't have wanted her to.
こここそは我ら無限と黄金の魔女ベアトリーチェ、ここにあり。我らは知れど、それは敗北にあらず、そなたが生き証人となれ。その胸にわらわの切っ先にて我らの証刻みつけてくれようぞ。
さようならベアトリーチェ。このクソったれな無限ゲームもこれでおしまいです。地獄へ落ちろこの幻が。
Lambdadelta and Burncastle's fight to the death had passed through its phase as a dynamic clash of fireworks. It was now a clash that was quiet and motionless. These two witches, who possessed power on an entirely different level, may have been truly equal in strength. The battle can only be resolved by mutual consent if one of them lost interest or found some reason for wanting to lose. Since both were putting their all into the fight without yielding a bit, they were absolutely and completely equal. And that's when my man steps in.
ラムダデルタ、あんたが味方でよかったわ。
Fuck yeah. Lambdadelta kicks ass.
くそ、もう少しなんだ。早く砂になっちまえ。ふざけた魔法人め。
Battler got irritated and punched the magic circle, but there was nothing he could do except continue to watch over it. After all, the only way to dissolve it was by waiting. However, the pair of them still felt relief, if only a little. Lambdadelta really was strong. Even in a battle this spectacular, she fought on an even footing. Now, if you consider how confident each side looked, it seemed to have a slight advantage in Battler's eyes. She probably managed to buy them enough time. Angie would take the key and return to the Golden Land. She had to endure a bit longer. However, they had no way of knowing what Lambdadelta's fate would be after this. She had disobeyed the Senate, the highest level witches in existence. Something brutal probably awaited her. However, even knowing this, Angie had to step forward into the future without looking back. That was the single duty given to her, the Witch of the Future.
お兄ちゃん、あれは何？遥か向こうから何か近づいてくるわ。
まずいぞ。まさか敵の増援か。
Lambdadelta and Burncastle were glaring at each other, so they didn't notice. Heading towards them from the distance were several emerald green glints. That light proved that they were enemies. The cats are coming back.
でも、ほんのあの程度ならラムダデルタの敵じゃない。
Oh, but all the cats so far seem like fish in a school. The Battler's whole thing about like they seemed evenly matched, but even like the slightest bit of advantage could prove to be detrimental. That was his whole thing, right? That's why he wanted to join Lambda, in the hopes that his tiny ounce of strength could help her overpower her. Giving the impression that they'd be terrifying as a group, but not much of a problem by themselves. However, there's something different about the lights approaching them now. They were approaching in a beautiful, ordered formation, like a constellation. Battler quickly realized that this was something new.
我が巫女よ、そろそろ鍵の準備が必要な時間ではなかったか?
Just by her tone, Battler was able to tell how great a witch this was. The black cats that surrounded her in a graceful and systematic constellation were all wearing large capes with elegant designs. looked as though great overlords from many worlds had been transformed into cats, leaving only their capes untouched. What Battler imagined was quite true. That was exactly what had happened. These were the overlords from many worlds that formed Featherine's personal guard. Their bodies took the form of cats merely as a sign of respect to their master, who took the form of a human. These were entirely different from the pack of wild cats that served Burncastle.
あうあうろうあらもうそんな時間だったの客を多少待たすのもまたパーティーのもてなし方の人私はあまり好まぬのだがな
As she said this, her eyes flicked to Lambdadelta. The latter bowed hurriedly. The Lambdadelta grinned. She was also sweating, her brow furrowed with tension.
久しぶりであるなラムダデルタご機嫌うるわしゅうダイアウローラ卿ここは今日をもてなすにふさわしい場会場への道を間違えられたかならば私が自らパーティー会場にご案内しようそれは光栄ですわダイアウローラ卿
Featherine Augustus Aurora, the legendary Great Witch. It is said that she surpassed the level of witches, becoming a creator, and that, upon reaching this forbidden plane, she was cursed with a deadly ailment. However, in life, she once turned her pet cat into a witch. They say that this second witch wanders the sea of fragments endlessly, searching for any fragment that can revive her master from the pits of death called boredom, if only for a moment. And so the cat revived her master, revived this sacred witch who had reached heights none should reach. Just as witches look down at and mock humans from a higher world, calling them pieces on a game board. So she looks down at and mocks the realm of witches from an even higher world, calling them pieces on a game board. If a witch's strength is measured by the height of the world they are capable of reaching, then she was like a witch come back from the realm of the gods, one who had touched the highest forbidden heights and survived. Was there any chance of winning against her? No. Lambdadelta was unable to choose either victory or defeat by her own will.
我が巫女よ友人と戯れるのは後にして今は仕事を鍵の準備をせよ分かったわ途中でお使いを忘れてしまう天真爛漫さもそうは思わぬかラムダデルタ卿
Lambdadelta didn't say anything but hung her head low. From this position, it seemed that the key seal would dissolve in any second. However, Burncastle would probably find Battler and Angie before that. Once they got their hands on the key, they could leave this place immediately. Of course, this was assuming they did so before Burncastle and Featherine found them. Burncastle mustn't be allowed to move from the spot.
ゲームセットねラムダ
Nah.
私は大アウローラ卿の感激の魔女は朗読の巫女に保護を与えることを忘れてはいないわよね
Yeah, her reader Mikos have. I wonder who else has been her reader Miko in the past, huh? Lambdadelta still stood slumped over without answering. The Witch of Theater Going gave protection to her reader Mikos. Lambdadelta attacked Burncastle, who was Aurora's Miko, and the Great Witch Aurora would follow her contract, prevent what she considered an attack against herself, and respond accordingly.
取引しましょう何をよバトラーはどこに素直に白状したら全て水に流してあげるわ奇跡の魔女のあんたがバトラごとき小さな駒を恐れるの奇跡の魔女だからこそよあんな小石のようなやつでも起こす奇跡があることを私は侮らないのその小石が今じゃ奇跡の魔女に大出世したものねもう一度聞くわバトラはどこ
That's when he says, right here! Fucking just knocks her.
残念よそれが返事のようね
Burncastle turned her back on Lambdadelta, and she told her master that she was leaving to prepare the key, and she started swimming towards the key room. If I let her go any further, she'll find Battler and Angie. Battler readied himself. This time it was his turn to become a sacrifice. Even though he was nothing more than a single pebble, he could still put out an eye. Yep, Lambda said to hell with the consequences. Aurora might fucking throw me into like the worst hell imaginable, but you know what? A candy firework exploded right in front of Burncastle.
ラムダ、あんたは本当に
ラムダって
やっちゃったわ、バトラー。エンジェ、あとは頑張りなさいよ。
The Cat Overlords changed their formation, becoming a ferocious constellation that surrounded Featherine. Then each drew the utmost terrifying of magic circles from their respective worlds and began to chant.
私は少し我が巫女よ、そしてラムダデルタ教よ。これはどういう余興なのか。ラムダは私が鍵を取りに行くのを邪魔し。ほう、それはどういう意味なのか。
その意味がわかんないの。フェザリーヌ、あんたちょっと酔っ
Oh,
払ってる
hurling
んじゃない？
insults. Lambdadelta, she's not going down without, a little bit of fire, huh?
酔いざましが必要なんじゃないかしら。
Lambdadelta bluffed as well as she could. Her fingertips were shaking slightly.
巫女への攻撃は主へのそなたも知らぬわけではあるまい。
知ってるわ。そのルールによると、私はあんたたちとやっぱり戦う。
ほう、私か。私の巫女がならば詫びよう。しかし教えては、今はそなたは巫女を持たぬはず。そなたにはいつの間に巫女がいたというのか。
それがね、いっぱいいるのよ。30人か40人かもっといるかしら。このラムダデルタ、相手が誰だろうと巫女に売られた喧嘩はそいつらはみんな絶対のハッピーエンドを信じてる。この絶対の魔女がそんな絶対を信じて頑張ってる連中をね、見捨てられるわけがないでしょ。
そなたの物語も嫌いではない。我が感激に値する。しかし今の私は感激者でなく出演者である。我が巫女の親友であることを知るからこの舞台を降りるがよい。我が観覧席にそなたのための特別な席。
あんたの物語と私が感激してる物語のどちらが面白いか考え。
答えを聞こうぞ。
バトラたちの物語の方が悪いけど、今年の助演女優賞は私がもらっとくわ。あんたたち最後の人気投票は私に入れなさいよ。最低でもトップ5よ。いいわね。
Listen, if that was still a thing, I totally would.
どこ見て言ってんのよ。
I totally would. As Lambdadelta pretended to joke around, she calmly focused on the one weak point she could see. She had a chance for a single attack, then a 1 in a billion shot at victory existed. It was that horseshoe-shaped memory device floating around Featherine's head. Without that, she couldn't preserve her own existence. Destroying it was impossible, but if Lambdadelta could just jar it enough, she might be able to make it bug out. At least once in the past, Featherine's memory device had been damaged, and her personality and appearance had changed. Oh, really? However, she was aware of that herself. Probably wouldn't let that happen again, no matter what.
よかろう。ラムダデルタ家、そなたの脚本が準備できたならいつでも参られる。
脚本なんて簡単。たった1行。華麗でキュートなラムダデルタ、悪の黒幕アウアウローラを一撃でぶっ倒す。
愚かなラム、そこまであなたが愚かとは思わなかったわ。猫たちは手出し無用。ラムダデルタ教より献上されるこの勇敢なるそなたにふさわしい物語と結末を褒美に取らせる。
フェザリーヌ・アウグストゥス、アウアウローラー。
Lambdadelta summoned magical power from her whole body and raised it in a mass above her head.
すまぬ。
Then the world's time stopped. Did she just Zawarudo this shit?
そなたの脚本は採用し、なぜなら
Rather than time stopping, it was more like the flipping pages of a book had stopped. What? In this motionless world, closely packed letters appeared.
この先の脚本を記すのは私であるからだ。
It was a tale that had been written up to this very moment. Feathering Augustus Ararora. Lambdadelta summoned magical power from her whole body and raised it into mass above her head. That was where the paragraph ended. In this frozen world, Featherine sat with her arms crossed.
参ったものだ。戦いを書くのは久しぶりでな。唐突にこのような展開で筆を預けられても困るというもの。
When I get stuck writing, I try to write in reverse. In other words, instead of starting at the beginning, I start at the end and go backwards from there. That way it's easier to set up foreshadowing, and I can write the story with my vision for the end in mind. The only downside is that I have to suddenly start at the climax without setting up the story first.
とりあえず戦いの顛末から遡ってラムダデルタとそなたは私に敗れ生き絶える
As Feathering said this, words were added to the massive group of letters that filled the frozen world. However, she was starting from the end, so there was a large gap between the new words and the old ones.
どんな姿でそなたは破れそなたの勇敢さにふさわしいこうはどうかよくわからぬが何かに吹き飛ばさ獅子がバラバラに砕け散り息絶えてなかなか派手なさよしこれでとりあえずそなたの最後は決まった
Blanks in the outline Feathering spoke of were being filled up. What, like Mad Libs? At the same time, Lambdadelta's figure was wiped out. After crossing her arms and thinking again, Feathering pointed in a random direction. Lambdadelta appeared, blasted away by something, and slammed spread-eagled against the bookshelf Feathering had pointed at.
さてここからこのような最後に今の私は今日も見抜くとその部分は今度改めて時間を設けてじっくりと執筆することにする今はこれにて許せきっとそなたに気に入ってもらえる勇敢な戦いぶりを執筆することを約束しようぞ
Feathering snapped her fingers. Lambdadelta had no idea what was going on. Before she could even blink, she was suddenly here, being slammed against a bookshelf.
何よこれ
She couldn't comprehend the something that Feathering had killed her with. However, that was only natural. After all, Feathering herself hadn't decided what the something was. However, Lambdadelta did understand one thing. She was already dead. Streams of blood dripped from the corners of her mouth. Then, lines of blood appeared on her wrists and ankles, her elbows and knees. She looked like a marionette doll of herself.
私何
まったくだラムダデルタ卿良いアイデアがあったら聞かせてほしいぞ
Still pinned against the bookshelf, Lambdadelta let her head slump. Her wrists, ankles, legs, arms, and neck, each split into a separate part, and the marionette shaped like her lost its strings, falling in pieces into the depths below.